So August 14th, 6:15, the facilities meeting. We can just go around the table. Tamara Twardowski.
Jim Harris.
Mike Wolf.
Casey Blankenmiller.
Jeff Scott.
Scott Potts.
Lawrence Wall.
Jamie Sewerthorn.
Chad Johnson.
So, Casey, you want to start?
We're going to jump around this list because I actually wrote down some other stuff. Summer project updates, just want to bring everybody up to speed. High school roof, I had the walkthrough this morning with the contractor. They're 100% complete. Everything's cleaned up. Project went absolutely smooth. I had zero issues. The weather held out and everything is done. So we'll get the final closeout paperwork in a week or two probably from them. Be a couple 3-ring binders. High school courtyard doors are done. There's some couple odds and ends that GCA will tie up. The drop ceiling pieces will have to just be tied into the frames. Just they were attached to the old ones, so they'll clean that stuff up. High school rekey, the second phase. The key cores arrived while I was out. I sorted them this morning, so hopefully by the end of this week I will have all of those changed out. So that way when the teachers are back, they can all get their new keys next week and that'll all be straightened out. High school bathroom renovations, the plumber will be back on Wednesday. Had a couple delays, which then he had a vacation planned for a week and a half and he wasn't able to get his stuff finished up prior to his vacation. So we just had with the timing and delays, it just didn't work out as well as we wanted it to. So and then pretty much GCA can go in there and clean them up then. So they look great. There's some paint and stuff like that needs to be done as well, but that can be done afterwards as well if we don't get to it.
Do
So
you have a deadline
for
the bathrooms?
Do you think they'll
the
be
plumber will
ready
be
for
on site
school?
Wednesday to wrap it up. He just has to put a couple valves on and stuff like that. And there was a toilet flange that had a crack in it, so he wants to chip that out and replace the flange. He found it after the fact kind of thing. So he has about a day's worth of work, so he'll be here Wednesday. I told him they have to be here, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, we want to get out of there because we have other projects we need to go get on as well." So high school front sidewalks is completed, backfilled, seeded. I've asked GCA to straw the areas that were seeded. Just kind of makes it look a little bit nicer for the start of school. The grass won't be thoroughly up, but at least it'll clean it up. District-wide card access, just waiting for a schedule from them. They're wrapping up a bunch of projects at other schools. They're going to try to get the majority of the wire pulled before the kids come back, is what their intent is. And then just the Coral Reef project, as we all know, that, we did that in classroom C1, electric fort. It's about 6 fish tanks now in there. 3 large ones and 3 small ones that they use for sick coral, as they call it. They move the sick coral into these little ones and they do a little triage with them to get them healthy and move them back into big tanks. It's actually quite an interesting process. So we had to do some odds and ends for them for the extra tanks. So we're able to use all the electric that was there and just add circuits.
You're capping the limited amount of tanks.
He's pretty much at the end, and he knows that. But just kind of wanted to let everybody know, it's if you get into the high school and you want to go see a little lobster and this really neat coral, it's pretty neat. It really is. They've done some really neat stuff in there. So, but that's pretty much the project update.
The roof, now that has a warranty, right?
20 year.
So are we making sure that if we have to
All that
register it or
paperwork
do something?
is filed. Yes.
Okay.
That is all done.
Okay.
Tremco actually provides you that with their submittal paperwork, so I don't even have to submit anything. They take care of everything and they provide us all of the information for that.
Okay.
Does that complete the roof?
That completes the roof. Yes.
Except for the
I
metal.
thought we have.
Except for the metal.
Yeah,
The metal.
but the flat roof, all the.
Yeah, all the flats. The first phase of it on the annex was done when they did the energy project in 2008, I think it was, 2009, somewhere in there. That's a 20-year roof. Tremco actually did that one as well. But that's a 20-year Carlisle roof, I believe, is what's on there. So that's that. AEC dock door. It's a pair of doors on the dock. It was pretty banged up before this summer, and just from wear and tear. We are not going to be able to use that reliably with the card access system. It's just too out of whack. It's too loose. It's just a mess. So that's $5,510 to replace that door. That pair of doors.
Lauren? Is that just?
That's just maintenance. That's just maintenance. I'll provide Lauren. I just wanted to let everybody know it's, in order to do the card access back there, these doors are not able to be used anymore. The frames are starting to go bad. They need a lot of work.
Do we get warranty on doors when we replace them? None.
No.
Well, are we replacing that ourselves? We're just buying the door, or they?
No, they'll install it.
Okay.
They'll install it. And we get a year, year warranty of, manufacturer's defects and stuff like that. So that's that. A couple items that are not on the list, I'm just going to hit them really quick. The BEC light pole, the one the cop car took out, they went to install it last Wednesday. I just found this out this morning. The anchor bolts were no good, so they went back to core drill the concrete case on to put new anchor bolts in. Unfortunately, the anchor bolts were changed one time before, so they never removed the anchor bolts that were there. So what they're going to do is they're going to make a plate. They're going to turn the plate on a 45, anchor that plate into the caisson, and then put new bolts off of that plate to make the pole square. So we kind of discussed that for about a half an hour this morning, what options we had, because the only other option is to pull the concrete out, which means I have to pull the electric out, which means I can't pull the electric back to the other pole, so it's a whole lot cheaper to fabricate a plate.
Can we get some concrete barriers and like surround our poles with concrete barriers or something? No pole
we
is
can.
safe and.
We can.
Apparently, Birdsville Elementary drivers can't drive.
Speaking of poles,
geez.
there's a light pole at the back of the high school that was taken out 2 weeks ago by somebody. We have it on video. We know the car, but we weren't able to see a driver or a license plate. They were parked by the weight room, ended up driving down around the back of the building, realized they couldn't get out, turned around, was coming out the driveway by the football stadium, and where it turns, they never made the turn and hit the pole and broke it about 2.5 feet up and drove away. If the pole wouldn't have been there, they would have been down in the baseball field because they were moving. I mean, and actually, it's kind of funny.
The car away?
And they drove the car away quickly. When they hit the pole, it's a Buick LeSabre. The driver's window fell down about 2 or 3 inches out of the track. So
The police have contacted all the auto body shops in the area.
Yeah, the police report was filed. They called, I believe, the state police. They came down and filed the report. So
There's also an oil engine.
There's an oil, yeah.
Cap lying beside it, which, if it's from that vehicle due to the impact, I think they'd be losing oil by now,
yeah,
straight up, so.
yeah. So I pulled the light pole and the top and everything. I put that down by the garage. So I'll get a price on getting that replaced.
But the force.
And actually, the whole concrete caisson's at about a probably 15 or 20 degree angle as well. So I'm going to hook it up to the truck, pull that back, then we'll have to repack soil around it and get it solid again. If you remember, middle school tennis courts, I just was going through emails, and I'm sorry about this one. This is the one where the tennis coach was chopping the ice and damaged the court. E.J. Brenneman had done the work initially for Amity Township. Their recommendation is to pressure wash the entire courts. That's a cost of $3,600, and then to install, and it'll last them. They more or less use crack filler and manually fill all the little gouge areas out. It's a whole lot cheaper than having to go in and repaint the whole thing. That's $3,100. He said, while we're there, we should wash it because then we can get all the dirt out of little nooks and crannies. So you're looking $6,700 to get the tennis courts repaired from the damage by the tennis
Can we
coach.
pressure wash it?
We can.
I was gonna ask, could
We can, and then that's
We could-
fine. But I'm just, that's why I wanted to bring it up to you guys,
Seems like a lot to pressure wash. I mean, if you got the pressure washer, I'll come pressure wash
That's
it for
fine.
$2,000.
And he said that's fine if you guys want, he said if you guys want to do it, that's
1900.
fine as well. I just, with having the tennis coach already damaged it, I at least asked him to give me a price on what it would cost for him to do it.
Wasn't there
So-
an issue with salt on there too?
And they put salt on it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that was damage to the surface?
So then I'll just work with GCA to get it pressure washed, and I'll contact EEJ Brenneman on getting it, the repairs done then.
Didn't-
Okay.
if you're just gonna use crack filler, I mean, we could probably, or is there something special they need
They
to do?
use a certain crack filler.
Okay.
It's colored, it's the whole
Okay,
9 yards,
all
so.
right, yeah.
And that'll kind of go with their
Well,
thing,
plus,
so.
because we don't the township owns that, right? So we
Correct,
gotta
so we have to
and
make
we
sure
can't
it's
just-
within
Yeah.
their guidelines. Just to let you know, while I was off, the oil pump in the Birdsboro elevator broke, busted the back of the casing out of it. What was that, $6,000, $7,000 to get that repaired?
6,600.
So that was done. And then right before I was out, we had lost air pressure over in Birdsboro's system. I went down and pushed a contactor in and proceeded to send a rod right outside the side of the block of the air compressor. So GCA, we moved a small air compressor that we had over to there, but I'm going to have to buy a fairly nice sized air compressor to get through the school year
What's the air compressor do?
for the pneumatic controls, for all the HVAC
okay.
controls.
Did we get, I don't know what the time frame was on this study, the engineering study about the safe structure of
We
that?
met with Jim Thompson about a month ago, wasn't it? And he's going to bring an engineer to look at basically the building's sound. It's the, I don't know the technical name, the out windows on the first floor, they're out, I guess to gain extra square footage in the room. Those outages are where the problems are.
Okay, so
Wasn't there
it,
a part of the wall that was sagging though?
That's
They're
the,
part of the
cracked.
the outhang
Like the
rooms.
bump out
The
type.
bump outs.
It's a
that's
bump
the
out,
technical
yeah.
term. Yeah, the bump outs are the part that's the problem.
So
Everywhere
not-
else is
Which
okay.
isn't necessarily the main structure of the building.
Correct,
Oh, that's good news.
yes.
So it's safe to have kids in the other parts, okay.
Yeah.
I had brought this up the last meeting. Shannon Helzer, Mr. Helzer, who runs the JRTC at the high school, the PA Army National Guard had asked about using our obstacle course on September 9th. They're going to have Pennsylvania, I'll just read it. Pennsylvania National Guard has requested use of obstacle course practice field adjacent to the obstacle field and the wooded area for training during their drill on September 9th, 2017. There'll be about 40 to 50 National Guard soldiers attending the drill. We request the access road into the woods and the open area of the woods be mowed. That's taken care of. We'll need access to the restrooms, facilities inside the football field for the event. He'll submit the necessary building use forms. He had provided them a hold harmless agreement, which is what he received from the reserves. So I said to him, I personally don't see any issues with it, but that's not my decision to make. I needed to bring it up to you guys. So if you're okay with them using this,
As long as Brian reviews it.
Scan that
Yeah,
over
you gotta
to me
scan
in
it,
the morning.
send it to
I'll
Brian.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And we're not, that's Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend, so we probably don't have any sports teams practicing on Saturday.
Right.
So we don't
It's
have to
Labor
worry
Day
about
weekend.
it.
It's the weekend after, I think, unless
Yeah.
Labor Day's real late.
No, it's the weekend after.
Is it after?
Labor Day's the 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it out to Subers.
I'll
and our
forward it to you
insurance
tonight.
broker,
Oh, you're right, you're right.
everybody will be
You
informed.
probably have to, probably midget football.
Yeah, and he has, actually, the reserves have already filled out, every person has already filled out their hold
That's the
harmless
name of
agreement
it,
because
isn't
they
it?
had their
Plays for
meeting
midget.
like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So he has all the attendance, all the attendees
vertically challenged.
forms. So, but if anybody wants to see what they, and there's a press release as well that he would like to send out,
Yeah,
just
you
to kind of
just
announce
scan
it.
it, send it to us, we'll
Yep.
get it to Brian.
Yep,
and
I will forward that all
Any
off.
changes he
I
makes,
would
if he's gonna
assume
make
though that
one.
we're waiving the fee, right? Because technically they would be subject to a fee? Or no? Right, so I guess,
An outside entity technically.
so I'm assuming they would like the fee waived, and I'm guessing that they've kind of helped out Mr. Helzer with
Correct.
JROTC stuff,
And I think
so-
the kids are gonna work with the kids as well, with some, if I'm not mistaken.
Waive the fees? Is that what you're-
Right, so I guess
Here?
our recommendation, was it our recommendation to waive the fees?
Because really, I
That's what's
mean, it's
being
gonna be
asked,
some
right?
GCA.
I mean, I think that's really
they've
what they're
helped in the past.
asking.
There's gonna be some GCA costs if they're opening up the bathrooms
Right,
and so forth.
so.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's covered.
Well, the bathroom's gonna be open at the stadium, correct?
Correct.
So they won't come into the building,
No.
so that's,
And that can just be cleaned on Monday. They can clean it Friday, and then they can clean it on Monday.
Does George know about, so like, in the event that there's other sports going on in the stadium?
we'll
Like,
check the calendar.
Believe he did talk to him, but I don't know that
say,
for sure.
Probably should
I
let
just
him
don't- I
know,
just
just
don't
because
know
there's
that for
probably
sure.
like,
The facility use form's gonna be
does the
going by
midget
him.
football
Right.
have
I was to
games every
say,
week?
well, I don't know if they have a football game Friday. They're usually Friday nights always, right? No,
Yeah.
I think. So if it was to be a Friday night, but I guess always Blazer midget football usually uses those fields, I think.
Sundays.
Don't they? Or the
That's
fields
Sundays.
down- Is it Sunday?
And he's
Okay.
actually limiting their use of our turf as well this year,
Okay.
so. But yeah,
Don't they
I'll
use
talk to
the
George.
backfields for Saturday? I mean, I'm talking 15 years ago. I
They
don't-
use the middle school.
Okay, they go to
Yeah,
middle school now?
They
Okay.
primarily use the middle school for everything. They use on our field on Sundays, I believe,
Okay.
Climbing around.
so. High school stair tower handrails, just want to kind of bring everybody up to speed on this. We painted them last year. The paint did not hold. There's so many layers of paint on them, they need to get. The cost to remove them and powder coat them is actually more money than to replace them with aluminum. So I'll be providing a proposal next facilities for aluminum. I had gotten a number, but it's of course over the prevailing rate. The contractor didn't give me a prevailing rate number, so I didn't have it in time for tonight. So and we'll be doing it through SJ Thomas through KPN again as well. So that way it's all the pre-bid stuff. So I just have to, I'll get all that for the next meeting.
Let me ask, how much are rails? I mean, we got
It's
a bid.
about
How much are they?
$17,000.
It's about, well, you have five stair towers.
It's gotta be
And each one's gonna be anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 to come in, remove, measure, fabricate, come in and install, because the problem is the inside one is the one that takes so much work, because they have to do a lot of welding on site, because it's gonna be too big to bring in.
Can't we remove
prefab.
them?
Huh?
Can't we remove them?
We can, but they figure they're gonna, most of their time is gonna be in their shop. It's not gonna be even on site. They said they're gonna probably close the stair tower for about 2 or 3 hours to do each one.
So how much about?
About 33,000 is probably where we're gonna end up
For
being.
handrails?
For all of them, yeah. Because
Yeah.
once you get that prevailing
that
rate
on
in
the
there, it
list.
just,
Yeah, clock repairman and handrail
Handrail.
fabricators.
My
they
son's
make
not going
money.
to college, man. He's gonna.
Learn how to do
Yeah.
handrails.
Think about switching
Handrail
careers.
business.
Doorknobs.
What was the cost to remove and powder coat?
there was about 20% more. Because the problem is they have to move the anchor points then. Because the way they anchored them into the wall, they just kind of busted the holes and put mollies in the back. So they have to move all the anchor points, and actually some of our handrails are not quite coated.
I was gonna
With
say,
today's
are we
code-
gonna
with
make,
today's
are we
code.
gonna make sure that whatever they
Correct.
do is today, because,
Correct.
alright.
Like we have some that are an inch lower than other ones, like as they go up, you measure from each step, they vary a half an inch to an inch, going up the steps between stair towers. So to meet today's codes, it'll be up to today's codes. Energy pricing, as we had discussed before, Direct Energy is our current supplier for electric. Provident Energy was brought in. They have about 11 10, 11 of the 17 school districts right now. They are a broker, so what they do is they go to everybody, to the Constellations, to Talons, to everybody who makes electric, and then they negotiate on our behalf. So Lauren, Kathleen and I met with Mike Lang, correct, Lauren?
Lang's his last name.
Lang.
His first name was.
Met with him, had a conversation with him. So over the past couple of weeks, Mike Lang and Chris Petrowski from Direct have been sending me cost proposals because, of course, that number changes every single day. As of this morning, and I'm going to give you, there's a commodity price for your electric, and then there's a price for what they call capacity and transmission. So your capacity and transmission is when they take your 5 peak days, what PJM, who manages the grid, they call 5 peak days. They look at what your usage was in those 5 days, and they say, this is what your more or less wear and tear on the grid is, for lack of a better term. And then they charge you according to what that load is. So what we've done in the past is we have an all-in number. So what we've asked our suppliers to do is give us the commodity with the capacity and transmission all in one. There's things that we can do that we started doing this summer to bring that capacity and that transmission number down. One, turning off the units during the summer. Direct notifies us when they think a peak day is going to be, so then we can do additional shedding of electric. That's kind of the Cliff Notes version of what capacity and transmission is. So the commodity side. So what Laura and I had discussed was buying the commodity as a set number, and then what they do is they pass through the capacity and transmission. So whatever PJM says the number is, they just pass that through to us. If we ask them for an all-in number, they're going to look at our history and they're going to make sure they're covered. So they're going to probably put a couple, hundreds of a cent on that to make sure that they are covered. So what I've asked them to do is give me a commodity number with capacity and transmission being passed through, and then an all-in number. So right now, as of this morning, Direct Energy was at 3.404 cents for the commodity, and the all-in, they're at 4.939. Provident was at 3.444 cents for the commodity, and the all-in is at 4.999. So to kind of explain it to you a little bit, if I use 15, 16's consumption numbers, we used almost 8 million kilowatt per hour electric. So based on our current rate, which is 5.87 all in, so it's almost a cent more, it's 0.9 of a cent more than what our highest number is here. Our number before, our cost was $467,000. It will now go down to $398 at $4,999 and $393 at $4,939. So it's about a $70,000 savings if we commit to a 4-year agreement. So what they do is, if we commit to a 1-year agreement, it's about a half a cent more, and then every year you go out, the more they give you in rebates. And kind of the reason for that is there are a lot of new power plants being built that are going to be up and running within about 2 years, and they are the highest efficiency ones. Right now, coal compared to a new efficiency one is about 4 times the cost to make electric. So as they're phasing out the coal plants, PJM is now not paying as much to supply the grid. So PJM can sit here and say, well, we know our rates are going to be X because they've already did their commodity bids for 3 years. So your suppliers already know what their cost is going to be, and they're going to do the next 3 years, I think, this fall. I think is when they go out for their next three-year bid. So just kind of, so for every 100th of a cent is about $800 for the school district for a year. So, so that's where we're at as of today. You know, we can, on 8/4, so today's the 15th, 14th, yeah, 14. On 8/4, our commodity was 3.402. So it's stayed pretty even for 2 weeks. So it's your guys' decision if you want to make a recommendation to try to get a contract right away, or wait till the board meeting and have numbers run that morning, and then what those numbers are, they are. And then you guys vote on it, you know, the 28th, and then Lauren can do his thing with the vendor on the 29th.
Is the 4-year, it's a fixed rate?
Correct. The commodity is a fixed rate. The transmission and capacity will change.
Just as our behavior changes?
Right, so the little bit I was able to do this summer to try to minimize that capacity, we'll see a savings for the pass-through side of it. It won't be substantial, but there again, 1/10 of a cent's $8,000.
I'm just thinking, like, if they're gonna have new plants, the high-efficiency plants come online in 2 years, are they gonna be offering new customers a full cent lower than what our fixed rate already is?
And that's the chance you take.
Like, you know, the old DirecTV, you know,
I
cheap up front
Yeah.
and,
$19.99.
well,
And then bam,
I'll kind of give you, when I got
caught by
here,
that power trick too.
when I got here in
Yeah, I mean-
September of 14, we were paying about 7.2, 7.3 for the 4 big accounts and 8.2 for the other 7 accounts. We were able to get down to 5.8 the following year, and as you can see, we're down to 5 cents.
oh, I'm not
the
saying
next
it's
year.
not
No, I'm
better.
saying the next year. So there's got to come a point where they can only go so low, because it's still going to cost them so much money to make electric. I mean, they still got to make money. So I even the electric suppliers, like, we can't believe this is what the rates are at. At 5.87, they said we don't think they're going to get much lower than 5.5, 5.6, and here we are a year later, we're at 5. So that's where we're at.
This is a different discussion from the one in June where we were talking about pre-buying lots of electricity.
And we're technically doing that now.
Okay.
We would be locking in our rate now for December. It's like 23rd or 24th is when our contract renews, Lauren. I forget the exact date. So then that would be, we can buy today for that time frame.
But when you lock in a rate, you're hedging that the rates are going to go up
Right.
Correct.
Or that they're
or
not
not go
going
down.
down.
or not go down.
Correct.
And like you just said, with the technology and everything else that's happening, chances are the rates, it's not like gas 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago when I was buying fuel for buses, diesel, and we were guessing it's going to go over $5. We lock it in at $4 or $7, all of a sudden it drops to $3.60. And you're like, crap,
I remember
you're
that.
calling everybody back going, hey. They're like, hey, well, if it went to $5, you wouldn't be calling, would you? You're like, well, no. So, do we wait a year?
Well, we
what would it be if
expired.
We did 2 years.
We expired then. Well, okay. So
We're finishing up a 2-year deal.
yeah,
All right, so, because you said we could do.
So
so if we did 2 years, what would the rate be?
it would be 3.461.
Which is still savings from where we're at,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Yeah, you don't go too far out because, like you said, the technology, so we do 2 years, it's budgetable,
Yeah.
manageable.
Right. Now, the other part is, and I forgot this until I was reminded about it. When we went with Direct for our demand response, they credit our high school electric bill for the demand response fees. Instead of us receiving a check, they're just deducting it. That also gave us a $3,162 benefit deduct that they forwarded us.
Right.
If we don't use Direct for our electric, we lose that $3,000.
Well, have we had any issues with Direct?
No.
So since they're cheaper anyway, why wouldn't
And they've been consistently cheaper.
mean-
They've been between 1 cent and 1/2 cent for the past. They were, They were the same the first time. They were both at 3,512, I think was the number. And then since then, he's been a half a cent to a cent, half of a cent to a tenth of a cent to 5/100ths of a cent cheaper. I always get the decimal at the wrong spot.
What's the first rate, the first rate you gave us?
The 587?
There's two components to the all-in.
It's capacity and trencher transmission and the commodity. So the commodity is the electric, is flat out the electric.
That's the usage.
That's the cost of the electric.
But there's,
Then the capacity and transmission is kind of what
How
we're
you
paying
get
to
it.
use the electric. If you want to use it
which
that
one
way.
adjusts based on
The
our,
capacity and trencher
and the
transmission.
two companies are relatively the same on that rate?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what they're adding,
I'm just saying the real
they're both
savings is
adding
in
1.5 cents.
The real savings is in the
Yeah.
commodity
Correct,
price.
correct.
And you said direct is the best one.
As the last three
For right
prices,
now.
yeah,
400ths, is that 400ths of a cent or something?
correct. Yeah. So, I mean, literally, if we would go with Provident over direct, and they're 600ths, they have to be 5/100ths cheaper than direct to be even with direct, because we'd lose the $3,000.
Right.
So they have to be considerably cheaper, kind of thing. So, I mean, if you guys are okay, I mean, I have no problem going back to them saying, hey, I'm going to need new numbers on the 28th for a 2-year deal. Is that
Here's
where,
the other question, if Birdsboro goes down, right, and we don't have as much, we're not using as much electricity, that doesn't impact our rates.
the capacity will change a little bit because we're not using as much electric.
I guess what I'm
and they're
saying
just
is
passing
like.
that cost
if
through.
I'm just thinking through the 2-year versus 4 years, like would we get a different rate if Birdsboro was down today and our usage was lower, would we, like, is there a point break where you use
No.
more, you get a better
No.
savings?
No,
So it wouldn't matter.
Yeah, the capacity is the side that can really get out of whack. And it's never been managed here, so we're kind of on the higher end of the capacity side. There's some school districts paying 0.7 cents for capacity and transmission, we're paying 1.5. So, there's a lot of school districts that have managed that side of it for a lot longer time, and that has been consistent, and PGM sees that and says, okay, you're doing a very good job, we're gonna whack you this.
So maybe that's another reason to stay with this 2-year
Right.
to give your,
And that's why I asked them to pass it through, because as our capacity number drops, we'll get that reduction
Right.
as it slowly keeps going down.
And do we have a plan for reducing it? Like, what are the steps we need to take to reduce it?
We need to do a couple
aside
little
from just
upgrades.
turn the
We need
lights
to do
off
we
and,
need to do a couple upgrades that are for more energy efficient stuff, as we started doing with LED lights. There's drives that can be installed on pumps, so the pumps aren't running on high speed all the time, like cooling tower pumps. Like a lot of our cooling tower pumps are there on or off, regardless of demand. So when you start a motor, you have that big inrush. We can even get rid of that inrush and put soft starts on. So we'll have to spend a little bit of money, but as I said, every 100th of a cent is $800. So if we can save 2 or 3 tenths, we're saving thousands. We're saving a lot. I mean, a tenth of a cent is $8,000.
Jimmy, I'm sorry, it's off in our office.
I do too.
I just keep my head down.
Jim,
I
use
use
your
my
candle.
phone light.
Well, it makes it cooler too.
Casey, the variable speed you're talking about for the motors too,
Yeah.
saves the motor, starts
Yep.
slow and it
Yeah.
builds up
Yep.
to what it needs to be.
Yeah, so there's so many things
It's a
that we
lot.
can start picking away at. There's some controls that I've been talking to Train about, how to change the way we're doing some things. So I've been talking to their energy people as well. So there's some things that we can do under our service agreement with Train that will not cost us anything. So, because we have some extra hours that we haven't used. So I said, hey, I want to start doing some things. I said, absolutely. So they're fine with that. So 2-year agreement, and then we're passing through the capacity and transmission. So we'll have a commodity cost and then a capacity and transmission cost. You guys okay with that? All right, then I'll have that for the 28th.
I would just recommend you get they should be able to give you the agreement without the number filled in now, so that Brian can review it, so that there's no
Okay,
issues.
all right.
Like, if you can get that to him ASAP, then,
Yep, not a problem.
because I'm
If
sure it's their
direct,
standard.
Yeah, if it's direct, it may not have changed since.
Right, or maybe it's the same one, whatever, but,
No, we'll do. Okay, middle school greenhouse. It's been a discussion for quite some time. We received a greenhouse and a grant. The area was excavated, there was no pad poured. So we need to get pad poured, electric, water, and gas. This greenhouse has a heater, wall louvers, wall fans. It's a pretty, not super involved, but it's a fairly involved greenhouse, more than what the high school one was. We received a $14,000 check from the Education Foundation for the installation of the greenhouse. When the grant was filled out and applied for, Ken Smith said all work would be done by in-house staff. Well, that of course is not the case with the vastness of what this has to be done, and we no longer have employees of our own. We have GCA, so,
how old's this grant?
huh?
How old's this grant?
Grants, 4 years. Rob was still, I
It's still
think, at the
good?
middle school.
I mean-
Yeah, we already have the greenhouse,
They purchased the greenhouse.
yeah, with the
Oh,
grant.
okay.
With wellness grant, it's something else.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was, okay,
Now
got
we're
it.
just taking it out of the box and hooking it up.
So, unfortunately, the cost to put everything in is about $22,000.
Of course.
On top of the
So the free
14?
greenhouse now costs 22,000.
Okay,
Right. So we have 14,000.
Okay.
But our total cost is around 22,
Does that include the gas,
23,000.
electric, and all?
That's
this
gas,
business?
electric, and
We
it
always
doesn't
put
include
the-
what
What about
they're,
cement?
for the whole-
that includes concrete, electric, gas, and water.
How big is
Get
this
three
thing?
quotes on all components.
Yeah, I'm working on those. The 16 by 24, I believe. And it's all aluminum anodized frame with the drop-in panels and all that kind of stuff.
Can they grow
So-
the vegetables for the cafeteria? Maybe we can get some money back? That's what they
So,
do at VCTC.
I'll growing something else.
Well, that,
I just need,
Now you're
you know, is this going to be, you know, as we move forward, because Lauren has sent off to Brian Subers, you know, he would like to see 3 quotes for all the trades, and we're gonna be over the $14,000. So at that point, do I have the go-ahead to, is this gonna be a capital expense then? Or how are we gonna do this? Because.
Let me ask, I mean, Dane built his thing in the back. Can't we get some people who work with us to donate their time?
I'm gonna say,
I mean, we use these local
reach
vendors
out
all
to
the
some local-
time.
local contractors.
We could put a little plaque up, thank you for building our greenhouse.
Good friend that owns a concrete business.
We could form it up, and get it started for the pad. And then if we just get the concrete poured, I mean, we could brush it off enough that it's level and finished. It doesn't need to be super smooth, I mean.
Nope, it's a greenhouse, you want it rough anyway.
So if we could just
Brush.
get if you want just the electric and the gas and everything done, so, because you have to have a permit for that anyway. If you want to just get that, we could probably help with pour the concrete, and we're just paying for the concrete and, not the labor.
Yeah, but we use lots of vendors, and I was at the Amity today, and I saw the little sign, 2 signs that Dane had up, and he had a list of volunteers, even the playground had a list of people who helped. We use these local people all the time, and if they can't step up and help a school build a greenhouse and put their name on it, you know, we could do a ribbon cutting and everything, and get their picture in the paper, we could play it up. It's free publicity for them. Honestly, they complain about us not using local vendors, but we do. So they need to step up and offer some
We'd
volunteers
play,
some time.
we'd offer our time, we'd help play a part in that.
Have we approached these 3 trades about a donation? All 3 vendors?
It was right when I was out, so I haven't had those in-depth conversations with them, so
I mean, you wanna-
unfortunately,
I mean,
just the
if you wanna
timing
bring
wasn't
them
the
in
best.
We could talk to them together,
No, that's fine.
you know, bring them in. We could
Who
eat-
were,
Well, people who I use now, you know, Pagoda's the electrical, Farino's the concrete, and Berkshire was the electric, the gas and water.
Yeah, their
So
vans are
I'll
always
talk
here.
to them.
Well, now
I'll talk to 'em.
Farina would be pouring it and doing it, right? If we just needed the concrete, like if these, I don't know, would you guys be able to, if they're pouring the concrete, you guys can fin,
We
like,
could pull people in from other areas. We have other contracts in the area. We can pull other people in.
You
to
just
stay
need
for that.
supplied concrete.
Yeah,
because heck,
Yeah.
I'll come out and float some concrete. It's been like 15 years, but if
Yeah, and
somebody
I've
else can
been
tell me,
Well, and I've-
remind me what
and
to
it's
do.
just a
you
flat
know?
pad, so.
Yeah, it shouldn't be,
But as
I've done
far
my
as the
garage
three
floor.
trades, do we have 3 quotes for each
I
trade?
do not have all of them yet, no, not yet.
That's what I'm saying, if you get, well, I think that's where Jim's hitting. You have 3 electrical contractors, 3 mechanicals, 3 for the water and gas. Say, hey, sharpen your pencil and let's,
Well, actually, I don't even know, if you're gonna ask for that, I would just go to the 3 that we generally use. I bring your plumbing and your electrical people in and say, listen, we're doing this greenhouse, we got a grant for this. Would you donate your time and we'll give you a plaque and maybe you pay for materials? That
always
that
the way.
sounded to
There's
me like
nothing,
you were,
there's
where
nothing
you were
close.
going,
Yeah,
right?
they
Yeah.
did the same
In the
thing.
mechanical
They
room
pulled
behind the
a lot
cafeteria.
of local people.
Right.
They built his.
The ground's
hall
already
back
excavated,
there.
like for the pad.
The stone's in.
The stone's in.
The stone's in. Yeah, and again, it's all the utilities are in that mechanical room.
Yeah, it's right
So
outside the room.
Forming it up would
But
be
it's-
that bad then.
So it's.
No, it's not hard to form it up, but it's pouring a pad. I've poured bigger pads than that myself. It's not, that's not the issue. It's just, I wanted to get the numbers so we had a cost, and then you guys, and like I said, I'll talk to them now that I'm back and kind of back at it here.
16 by 24.
I don't mind.
You said
Yeah,
16 by
yeah.
24?
So it's already dug.
It's already dug and already stoned.
Do you have to have the,
So to
do you
get
have to have
some
any of
wire
the gas
back in
or the
there.
wiring in the pad?
No, we're gonna do it so we don't have to. They can all come up on the outside of the pad and then come in, because there's a
curb.
an 8-inch curb that has to be poured down on top of the pad. So
Yeah, I see that.
that's gonna take a little bit.
He's a
You gotta
lovely
get some
man.
rebar bend.
What about drains?
Okay. No, they are.
I'm
They
not
just
gonna
don't
worry
usually
about
go
it.
out. They'll
We can
do
put a
some
drain right in the
of
center.
but-
And just let it drain into the stone. That's what I did in my garage, and it works just
Because
fine.
you usually hose it out and
Right.
water everywhere.
But I didn't put any drains in because I didn't know the township, if they would want a drain in there going just into the ground. I figured, and that way people can't really pour something down that nobody knows about, kind of thing, so. So the township wasn't happy when I put my little 6-inch coupling in the center of my garage floor. So I put duct tape over top, and we put the cream on top of it. When they inspected, I broke the cream off and I pulled the tape out.
Just remember you're on tape.
I don't care. That's 15 years now, so. All right, I will work with the contractors.
All right,
I will
and
see
I
what I can do.
appreciate you guys offering that you can do the pouring and stuff too, because that would save us some. So,
And then the only other thing is GSA update, which I keep in here, so, if anybody has any questions or, the rooms are pretty clean, some fine details need to be worked out yet. Jamie and I have been talking now that I'm back, it's been trying to work out some things, and we did a quick walk through the high school today and a quick walk through over with Dane today. Just kind of do an overview, so, other than that,
Is the flea issue completely,
Oh, yeah.
We were there today and we didn't get any fleas. Well, you didn't, because you got, I think you had.
I get bit all the time, so I don't know if it's just an old bite I
do
had
we
in
know
my
where
feet.
they came from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
yes?
There's a circus that came through town.
Or it was the deer in the drain. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually we had to treat it twice. We ended up having to treat Amity Elementary twice because of it. And then just to let you know, we also treated Monocacy's playground, the kindergarten playground, the perimeter for ticks. Because I guess some of the
Yeah.
kids had drugged some ticks into the playground mulch. We, of course, can't treat the playground mulch, so Airlix came in. It was $110 to treat all the flower beds around the perimeter to get rid of the ticks. So this year's been really bad for bugs, just with all the moisture that we've had with all
Well,
the rain.
it never
so-
got real cold either, so.
No. So, but I try to get through all these pretty quick.
Any spotted flies or whatever those things are in there?
Oh.
We have them on the middle school. Yeah.
Do we?
Yeah,
Are
we
you
sprayed
scraping
them
them?
last year. Didn't really see them this year too bad. We really haven't had them this year, so Steve, we had actually, Japanese beetles were horrible this year. It was almost $3,000 to treat for Japanese beetles in the middle school. The entire property was covered, for some reason. Usually it was just like 3 or 4 trees that we treat for a couple $100. This year this took them almost a day and a half to treat everywhere for Japanese beetles.
Yeah, I had them at my house.
I didn't have them. That's what's
Really?
crazy. Yeah, because you're
I didn't have any at my house, luckily.
I live right across the street, so
That's
front
right.
trees. They're all-
Spotted lanternflies, we haven't seen them like we did last year. We had a pretty good infestation of about 50 trees over at the middle school.
Wow.
40 to 50 trees. That was another $1,800, I think it was, to spray them last year. There's really not something to spray it.
I was
like they
gonna
don't
say,
claim,
that doesn't-
But there's a tree spray that works, that kills them. Because Mike Marino's brother, Steve Marino, does our spraying. He said we've had a lot of success with this product. So it's not like
Because
a real.
honestly, I mean, from what I've learned, it's you cut them and mulch them, and like once they hit the tree, you know what I mean. You have to basically just take the tree, and that gets expensive.
Yeah,
You got to start cutting trees down.
yeah, because according to our agreement with the township, any tree we cut down, we have to replace.
Yeah. Do you
Which I
guys,
think I'll be having a license agreement meeting with them next week, I think, is what they were talking about. Next week or the following week, so, the township.
do either of you guys have anything? And
I just have one question. For the events that are going on late and off hours, do we want any staff here at all, just in case there's an issue? Because we had the one leak over at the middle school, because we're always on call anyway. But do we want to cover other stuff, like on the 9th you have, I mean, just opening the bathrooms, do we need anybody on site that kind of represents
We
the
had this
school?
conversation before about any function that's in the building, do we want to cover every event and have coverage? There's an added cost then, of course, for every event. So I know some people who have their events have keys. We've never had any issues with it. Like, for the reserves, I mean, I have no problem giving Mr. Helzer a key to open up the bathrooms. He's a teacher here, kind of thing. So, and I know, band and stuff like that, but unfortunately, we've had a lot of people leaving doors open and doors propped and doors dogged down and stuff like that. Actually, they're having some issues up there now with some staff members doing it as well. So, that is your guys' decision as a board. If we're going to force these community groups to always have to pay for GCA to cover the events.
It's just a question, I'm just wondering.
right, and we've
Depends on the
wrestled
event,
with
doesn't
this
it? Like,
for
we
a
were talking
long
about that
time.
big
Yeah.
craft fair or whatever that they always have inside, and there's a lot of setup and putting stuff on the floor and all that.
Right.
Like, that's different from like something like this on the 9th where they're pretty much outside and just
Well,
using the
They
bathroom.
always do a building check that way after these events.
True,
So who's
but
doing the building check?
they do it in the morning. Most of the time, if it's after, if we're already out and it's, I don't know, say it's 7 o'clock in the evening, and then everybody's out, and, we'll be back in the session then. But yeah, they're always in doing building checks. So
Now
it
what-
just depends on whose area it is.
A lot of school districts are starting to do, just from talking to their facility guys, they are actually having a staff member work their normal shift, like Sunday to Thursday. Some work Monday to Friday, some work Tuesday to Saturday.
So that you always-
Twin Valley actually has a guy that works Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. That's the only nights he works during the week. Works like 3 10-hour days, and he's like, I'm partially retired, so that's all I need, kind of thing. So, that's another option, but I know that's not in their agreement. So,
It only takes that one person that one time
right.
for something to happen on the field, inside, outside, and then it becomes a major issue for not just you guys, but us also.
We don't, scheduling though, that's one of the reasons why you guys outsource now. You can make the request to us and we can accommodate it. That's not it's not a personnel decision you have to make in a board meeting anymore. So if you wanted to go to more of a flex schedule, we can work with a couple people to do that. That is not something we would complain about.
And it all depends on the event, too.
Correct.
It depends on the
We
size of
did
the event, you know.
The movie at the high school, it was me, Megan, and Shelley.
Right.
When it's here, a lot of times it's me, I live across the street.
Right.
So I'll open the building, shut it down. I was by the high school the other night, and I emailed you guys, the door was left open around 7 o'clock, and I did a drive-through with my son. He shut the door, but gave you guys an email. I don't know who was there, but the front door was propped open. So I shut it.
Now, I have a question though. It was the front door. Do we have cameras?
It was door number like 7.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's
that's,
always the one, it's always the door without a camera.
Because honestly, I mean, if we can track that in any way, I think we should find out who did it, and they should lose whatever rights they have. I mean, we've been harping on doors.
well, the good
and-
thing is I am ordering the lockout blades for the door, the dog downs, the moines and stuff like that. So I will be ordering that stuff this week or next week once I get a count of how many I need. And it's just it's a special key that has a blade that's on the side, and when you put it in, the blade magnetically sticks to the inside of the key core, so that way you can't get a key in there. So they're like $6 or $7 a core. So I'm going to change a lot of them. Once I get the high school rekeyed, I'll have all those cores. I can then use some of them and change things, so people don't have the ability to open and remove things.
Well, can they open them from the inside though? Because
Once they're in the building, they can prop it open. But what I keep doing is every time I see a prop door with a wood block, I take the block and I throw it in the trash can. So eventually, they're going to run out of wood blocks.
Be using chairs.
They'll just use stones or something else, you know. I think I threw 5 away this morning. So.
Water bottles.
Yeah. So
Light pole.
I definitely think the flex schedule is something that we should seriously entertain at this point. You know, with all the activities that we do have in the high school. You know, so I can talk to Jamie.
That's you guys.
Yep.
That's you guys.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, it's hard because for years we haven't charged the community, like the kids' community groups, and the school district has always eaten that cost. Now, when you're outsourcing it, it's a visible cost. I mean, it was probably a bigger cost before, frankly, because people were getting 4 hours of
Right.
this and that for driving by, you know. But if we start charging these groups, there's a lot of. I mean, we talked about it a couple of years ago, and everybody was in an uproar, and so it's that fine line of.
Well, I mean, we
Yeah.
could work the schedule, so it's,
Yeah.
I would hate for it to be that
Right.
one time.
And if we can do something like that, I mean, I know I used to be at a treatment plant. You gotta have staff 7 days a week. So some people worked. Yeah, some people had different days, you
Right.
know, or they worked every other weekend and they got a day off during the week. So yeah, if we could maybe look into something like
Okay,
that.
yep.
And a lot of it's seasonal, too.
Right.
You know, once we hit into band, basketball, wrestling.
And I'm assuming during the week there's somebody usually here till 10.
10,
or
11,
right?
12, yeah,
Okay.
it depends on, what the schedule's gonna be for this school year. So, that's not really an issue, but if they're only in their areas and not covering anything else.
Okay.
That's when it becomes, that's, you know how it is.
That's not my
10.50
job.
an hour, exactly.
It's not my
Yeah,
job,
And that's
yeah.
what you get, sometimes with that, so. And that's where we're finding these doors being left open, because once we leave, we don't come back, for any reason. They've been instructed not to come in unless they're working or there's an event. That just removes that, I left the door open by
Right.
accident. But then we're still finding doors propped open, so it's just a safety thing. I've always worried about that at other schools, and I just see a lot here that, if I could help, I can help.
Right. Anything else from you guys?
Yeah, I just want to make a request, and we've discussed with Jim and Lauren over the past couple months. Minimum hours, credits on our invoices that we've dealt with over the past, really the past fiscal year, while we had changes in staffing and so forth like that. And then, obviously Jamie's here. I know there were some service issues with Doug. We removed Doug, put him in just a strictly custodial environment. But we brought Jamie here. And, I was part, you probably guys haven't met me, I'm Chad, I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations. I was here during the negotiations with Mr. Martino and Brian and Lauren and Jim back in really April of 16. And, you know, I know one of the biggest things making this deal was during the negotiations is an enhanced wage for the district employees that were going to stay on site. And we committed to that. We've paid them those wages, and we're going to continue carrying that wages forever. We don't want to decrease that by any means. But we put in a market wage bid that was based on a price, and the district came back to us and asked us to commit to paying the wages up above that for anybody that's stuck around. We've committed to doing that. We've done that, but we fell short on some hours from pretty much from the start through about March. The credits got much lower starting in December, January, in February we had an uptick just with some days off from school and so forth. But we've had a consistent staff now. We've had a good summer. We got Jamie in here. We've got a better maintenance perspective. And I was just going to see, it was never my understanding that I was going to be giving back a lot after making that extra commitment. I'd understand that the contract has some hours. I thought when we made the deal, that really wasn't going to come into play. Outlined some bullet points in a cover letter that said if we were going to increase the wage, we would need some flexibility in staffing. And I even requested that to be memorialized in the contract. It didn't make it in there, even in some email correspondence with Brian. But if you total up what we spent on labor, what we proposed to spend on labor just from an aggregate dollar standpoint, not hours, we were within $16,000 of what we put in the bid book from just a dollar's perspective. It was about $1.33 million that we said we'd spend on labor and benefits, and through subcontracting with Halter, through what we've paid our people in extra wage, we spent $1.316. We spent within $16,000. We did fall short by a little bit. So we didn't meet hours for the first couple months. But we've gotten there now. We feel like we're been a true partner. We've made the changes when you guys request that we make a change. We got dug out of there. And I'm just asking for some mercy on, meeting in the middle or something like that. Even if we committed to buying some things for the district, we can do things through our purchasing that can work for us to cover some of the margin that we really gave up to make the deal happen, and then weren't expecting to give up a lot of margin on top of that too. This is a competitive industry. I think we've given a good price, and I think for the district employees that stuck around, I think we're committed to taking care of them for however long they want to be on staff. There's no increase in the fiscal year price for this year. We bid it out in that way to not even ask for a CPI or anything like that in the 17-18 year. So, we're committed to our price, but we're asking if you guys can take another look at the minimum hours, given that we spent the dollars, we're pretty close to it, and then maybe we can put this type of issue behind us going forward, and we can just focus on service delivery, because when we're only focused on hours, it takes away some of the flexibility that we can do, or the purchasing from a capital standpoint. If we want to go buy a machine, that would help benefit the operation or benefit the district, we have to think twice about that now, just because we're only managing to a set of hours. And we've made requests, but I felt it important enough to come tonight and just make that request in person from my position and see if there's any flexibility you guys might have to look at that.
We can certainly take it to the board.
And I've given all the background and detail and the letters, the emails that we made during the negotiations. And Jim and Lauren have been great to work with. I'm just asking for some help here. I understand what the letter of the contract says, but I am asking just humbly asking for some grace here, just because it was a misunderstanding at my point. I thought we were going to be talking about dollars, and it's been hours based the whole time. So if we have to focus just on hours, we're going to have to look at the wage rate going forward of the employees, and those types of things, just because we have to at least cover our costs. And if we gave up all this $110,000, that would put us in a major negative. And I can't operate effectively if I'm losing money. And so, if there's any mercy or any grace in that, I'm humbly asking for that. Even if I'm not asking for the full amount back, but if there's a way to meet in the middle.
I mean, what's the wage difference between the employees you had? Like, how much extra cost was that on you relative to the $110,000 that you're short?
If we paid everybody the market wage, and we've been able to find people at $10.50 to $11 an hour, we've paying most of the district employees between $16, $17 on up to $18 an hour. It's at
Actually,
least,
Kenny's up to 21.
Yeah,
Kenny's
so
the head custodian at.
we had some expectations what we were going to be able to pay, and based on our experience
Is
in the
this
market.
just custodial staff?
No, it's across all three services.
But I mean, all the services aren't being paid $10, $11 an hour? are
No,
they?
no, we paying the maintenance guys we have a premium rate in there, but we can find a general maintenance tech for $16 an hour as opposed to $21 an hour. But so when you tack on those things times 2,000 hours a year, that's real money.
Lauren should have, I mean, we figured all that when we did the contract, that was all, I mean, that was looked at, what the difference in the wages would be.
That was a part of the negotiations
Right.
Yeah.
prior to the contract, and that's what Chad is saying, that he acknowledges that, but the contract as it is written is based on hours.
Right.
on dollars.
Well, just, like I said, just from my perspective, so it seems like you would have known up front when the contract was signed that you were gonna come in over with the folks making that much money. Like, assuming, like, you didn't plan on not hitting the hours,
No,
right? Like, you didn't go into it going, well, we told you we're gonna give you, whatever,
Right.
1,000 hours a week, and
well, if we
hey,
were,
look,
Yeah.
if you did that at the current rates that they were planned to pay,
we could
it was a
withstand
number.
a credit like that. We could if we were paying all.
Yeah, I'm just
market.
trying to understand how we got to that point, to the point where you were,
Yeah.
that we're that short, and it seems odd that at the very beginning, the onset of the contract, determining the total cost based on an assumed number of hours, it wouldn't have showed that you were gonna be overpaying
Well,
anyway.
I thought,
What am I missing?
and I apologize because I haven't looked at the contract in a year, but there was a clause that if we had so many previous employees, then we would pay
$70,000.
additional monies. And we're under that, are we not, for the additional staff?
Because several have left, have they not?
A lot, yeah,
Quite a few.
Yeah, they have left.
2/3 have left.
Yeah.
So I guess we were under the
So I feel like
impression
we're
that
ahead of
if,
schedule on all those fronts, and so that's what I'm trying to understand.
that would help pay those
Is it just
wages.
the salary cost that's driving
Yeah, and
this
it's the
difference?
first, and it was really just the first 3 months, the ramp up period that we took the biggest hits.
Well, okay, there's three categories. There's custodial, there's maintenance, and there's grounds. Each of those categories. Well, this is the best part.
I know, my wife's called me 4 times today.
Yeah, you better get it then.
So is mine. There's, I'll wait for him, I guess. Well, there's three categories: custodial, maintenance, and grounds.
It's Ken Templin's category.
Each,
He's a head custodian, so he's in maintenance, the maintenance category. 'Cause
So
he does some
each-
portering, some maintenance.
each of those categories has an hour total. Okay, so I'll say 4, 2, and 2. Am I close on the grounds? Like 4, 2, and 3, something like that. This is close.
Custodials based on 4,200,
Right.
maintenance 720, and grounds 960.
Okay, so early on, we looked at work order completion for maintenance. Okay. The hourly wage was never looked at by us internally here after negotiations were done. We always looked at the hours and the work order completion for maintenance. Okay. First 3 months, first 90 days till Halloween, we said we'll cut you a break. You know you're getting ramped up. Start at July 1st. Leave you alone. Let you do your staffing. But you're still being held accountable for a lot of the work. The work order completion rate for maintenance was around 30%, very extremely low. As the months progressed, they ramped up, and when Big Doug, as I call it, came in and questioned why we didn't have a full maintenance crew and said we need more maintenance here, they were falling short under the maintenance. So under the custodial category, as we hire more and more bodies, you're hitting those hours. under maintenance, slower to get skilled labor, obviously, to get people, and to get them in, slower to achieve that 720 number. Grounds is a whole other story. So the hours, as we do it, if you correlate the hours in the work order completion, as the hours increase, so does the work order completion. So by the time, Jamie gets here, we're at 85%. I mean, we're closing them all because staffed appropriately. Now, what that staffed appropriately number is, it looks pretty darn close to the hourly that's there. Now, I was opposed originally to the hourly amount because I said, well, if me and Lauren can do the work of 5 people and we could do it for 16 hours a day and not, 48, then they should be rewarded for that. But it appears you need that many bodies, custodial-wise, to get the work done. On maintenance, it was darn close. Grounds is a totally different beast, but it seems that we need to hit that hourly mark. It's really shows that the work orders are being done because they're hitting them hourly.
But under negotiations, when we know manpower versus to calculate the hours, because if we need 20 to hit that hour mark, when you'd already have that figured out.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't be coming to the
Yeah,
table.
I think the biggest thing for me though, it was that ramp up period. I mean, these types of hours discussion, certified payroll, they're in a lot of contracts. The way this one got interpreted, I didn't expect it to get interpreted the way it did. And we turned in our hours, the calculation came, and then we were, July alone, $42,000 less, we paid for, although we put out all our capital to get started and had a lot of startup costs, we committed to regional support. I get to the letter of the law, the interpretation that Brian has given so far. I think we're hitting our marks now. We're committed to doing whatever we need to do, staffing-wise, wage-wise, to maintain the service. I'm just asking for some mercy, meet in the middle, because it was obviously a miscommunication to me.
Well, going forward, though, you're going to hit your mark, and there shouldn't be a...
Yeah, pretty
Right.
close.
Right.
And I would
Right.
like that just to be
And
a mute discussion at that point. We get away, it's more of a performance contract. We amend it that you guys get the job done. We're not gonna go back and forth and this be a point of contention every month.
Well, I think on your part, though, I think I'd want to make sure every week or bi-weekly that we're hitting these hours.
That's what I sat down with Jamie about, and I said, because I've been in this position with nutrition service, where you have to hit a dollar amount.
Right.
Well, you have to hit, 4,200 hours a week in custodial. Okay, well, then you divide that into 10 months or 12 months, whatever. You divide that by 4, you divide that by the week, so almost by the day, into the week, you're
Either
on
gonna
track
hit it, yeah,
to
you're gonna
hit
do it.
your hours.
But I, at the same time, wanna have the freedom on the dollars that if I need to make a decision from a skilled standpoint, a skilled labor standpoint, that, what this would really benefit this district is a $25 an hour plumber rather than a $16 an hour plumber. Or if we find the right guy, I wanna get the right guy in the building, and I wanna have the liberty to pay them that amount.
But then it goes back to work order completion performance, because what I said in our meeting, I can't defend 30% work orders being done and paying you 50, 70% of what's owed, because we weren't getting that work done. If we were getting that work done, you're at 80 with half the hours. That goes back to my argument, as I said before, before the contract was
Well, I think that's
done,
the-
maybe they could do
No,
it for less.
you're
You're not
It
going to
wasn't
get the
being
board to
done.
approve that without
wasn't
having
being
more
hit.
context and understanding of it.
Right, because I think, like, for me, if you weren't hitting your numbers, but we were satisfied with
Right.
with the maintenance and the work orders in the beginning of the year, I wouldn't have as much in it.
I guess-
And I don't know that there's that, I don't mean, and I'm not, this isn't a bad thing, I think you guys are doing better, but I don't know there's that trust there with the board yet with GCA to
Well, I
say,
don't-
well, we trust you guys that, yeah, you're gonna get the job done, and if it's less people, but more product or what,
Yeah.
I don't know that we have that relationship
I know in
yet.
my line of work, I have my customers, they're paying a rate. It's a top rate, but they're not going to pay me that top rate if I'm only doing half the job.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're closing in. I think we gotta get to another meeting, but I think we need to review it. I think we need.
Yeah,
to-
I'm just, I'm
Go
asking,
forward.
there was a ramp-up period. Obviously, we weren't gonna be fully staffed in July and August. I mean, even if it's just a look at the credits in July and August, when we deal with